I am successful. I look for and find opportunities where others see nothing. I am a lifetime learner. I am solution focused. I see only solutions. I am a solution. Welcome to the Be Transformed podcast. I'm the Catalyst, and my name is Lanre Olusola. And this is your go-to space for practical, mind-transforming conversations that would empower you to overcome life's biggest challenges. Whether those problems are emotional, whether you are dealing with depression, fear, or anxiety, or your problems are identity-based, the imposter syndrome, you are struggling in your relationships, your finances, or whether you are even struggling in your organization, your career, your business, this is your go-to space. And together, we will transform your mind, transform your life, transform your career, and your finances. Well, I'm not the only one that is on this podcast today. Today, I have one of Africa's top leadership experts as my guest. He is none other than Dr. Sam Adeyemi, and he's a distinguished leadership consultant, global speaker, and spiritual thought leader. He co-founded Daystar Christian Center in Lagos, Nigeria with his wife, and as senior pastors, they have guided its growth to a congregation exceeding 40,000 members. Now, through Daystar Leadership Academy, Dr. Sam has trained over 52,000 leaders dedicated to transforming Africa and the world around. He holds Masters of Arts in Leadership Studies from the University of Exeter, UK, and a doctorate in Strategic Leadership from Regent University, United States of America. Dr. Sam is a faculty member at Nigeria School of Politics, Policy Governance, and a member of the International Leadership Association. CEO of Sam Adeyemi GLC Incorporated, he coaches and mentors CEOs globally, aiming to raise high-impact leaders, shaping nations and destinies. Dr. Sam Adeyemi is also a prolific author with works including Shifts, 6 Steps to Transform Your Mindset and Elevate Your Leadership. Dear Leader, your flagship guide to successful leadership, the parable of dollars, proven strategies for your financial success. Success is who you are. Lead, proven principles to multiply your success at any level. Ideas rule the world. Start with what you have and build real wealth. Practical steps to regain financial stability. Welcome to my Be Transformed podcast, Revo, as I fondly call you. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Dr. Lanre. I am excited to be a part of your podcast, and I celebrate you and the phenomenal work of transformation that you've been doing for decades.
Thank you very
And
much.
I celebrate, yes, I really appreciate you bringing me on your podcast today.
Thank you very much. Today, our topic is nothing else but the future of leadership globally. Now, Revo, today I'm going to call you Doc, because, in strategic leadership, Africa is dire need of leadership. So let's start off by asking the most obvious question, but from your own perspective, because many people have definitions of leadership. What is your definition of leadership?
Thank you. Truly, there are many definitions for leadership. I define leadership as the ability to influence one or more people to achieve goals. That's a very simple definition. But it is important. The issue of the definition of leadership is very important because I think that is where most of the problem that we have with leadership starts. Most people associate leadership with positions. So, to the average person, first in Africa and then globally, when you say our leaders, their minds just go to the people at the highest level in government. Now, my journey with leadership started from the issue of that definition because an elderly reverend gentleman gave me a book to read some 35 years ago. I was young at our church, in Ilori, Kwara State, Nigeria. He looked at me and said, "There's something about you. There's something about you. Take this book and read it." And it was titled Learning Christian Leadership by Donald S. Altman. As I read through the book, the author said, if you believe the old philosophies from Socrates and Plato and Aristotle that few people are born to lead, everybody else is born to follow, you are grossly mistaken. Those
Wow.
ideas have expired. He said, if you're a believer in the Bible and you see there that God created each human being in his image and gave each person dominion, then you cannot afford not to believe that each person has leadership potential. He said, he listed the qualities of a leader and said, whoever you are, look through these qualities, you will find out you have some of them already. The ones you don't have, you can cultivate. Honestly, he was speaking to me because at that time, I really did not believe that I was cut out for leadership like that because I am introverted. So
Hmm.
when I was a teenager, if you asked somebody to volunteer to lead a group, I would be the last person to do so because I felt that the people who had the personalities that were more friendly, more outgoing, people that were more outspoken, that they were more cut out for leadership. But I could not argue against the fact that I had some of the qualities already. The ones I did not have, I could cultivate. Of course, as an introvert, which ones did I not have? Top of the list was communicating, expressing my thoughts and ideas freely. Communication is something that is studied up to the PhD level today. I bought How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and it was a revolution for me because I was marking practically almost every sentence and I practiced them. So to move from there to being a global speaker today confirmed what the author said. That's why I define leadership as ability to influence one or more people to achieve goals. Once you bring the definition down to influence, then you realize leadership actually happens at all levels. You can't
Wow.
discount the influence of parents on their children, teachers on their peers, employers on their employees. In fact, the influence of friends on one another. Influence happens everywhere, every day. Once people buy into the idea that it is about occupying some position high up there, they actually abdicate the responsibility to develop their capacity for influence and to deploy that capacity. Now, that actually is my own big campaign right now. Leadership happens at all levels.
Wow, I love that. I love that. I love that. Now we've spoken about leadership generally. Many people have said that our problem in Africa is a lack of leadership. They have cited countries like Dubai, and they've used that to validate the point. What is your own perspective on this matter and why?
Yes, leadership, John Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on leadership. I say where there's a popular saying in the boardroom where you train frequently that the fish rots from the head. When I talk to Christians, I draw their attention to a verse in the Bible. The Lord will make you the head and not the tail, and you will be above only and not beneath. And I say there was a frame of reference there when Moses was talking to a whole nation and he was saying, God will make you the head and not the tail. They understood what he was saying because he was referring to a cow or a bull, right? The head is
Mm.
always in front. The head is where decision making happens, processing happens, creativity happens. The head is where you have the eyes, the power of vision. The head is where you have the mouth. The tail is at the back. There is no decision making that happens in the tail. No thinking happens there. No creativity happens there. You drag the tail around. So, where the head goes, that's where the rest of the body goes.
Wow.
Leadership really, really matters. So, Africa's problem, well, I don't like to be simplistic about Africa's problems. It's complex. However, leadership is what helps us to understand it. Looking from a leadership perspective is what helps us to understand it. Remember, Because the average person believes that leadership is tied to position, when we say leadership is the problem, what people are actually saying is the guys in the positions at the top are the problem. I say, well, you look from my perspective, my definition of leadership, and the fact that it happens at all levels. And then I can agree that leadership is the problem if we agree that the problem is actually from all levels. What we're dealing with is culture. That's a big word that matters to leaderships worldwide, to leaders worldwide. Culture, the way of life that we have developed over time as we have responded to situations and circumstances. We have decided how to solve problems and we have repeated some of those ways. They have become group habits, right? Societal habits. What a habit is to an individual is what culture is to a group of people. So we have a big problem with our leadership culture. The way it has evolved has been different from the way the leadership culture has evolved in other parts of the world. The United States of America is the most powerful country in the world today, partly because of the evolution of its leadership culture. The people that laid the foundation of the country shipped out of England and out of Europe in protest to the leadership culture there, which was monarchical and stifling of human potential and creativity. And they came and said, no, we want to build a country where people will be free to develop and to release their potential. And that's why the United States is big on freedom till today. And they said, we don't want any monarchy dominating anybody, and dominating all the citizens. And they structured the constitution to make that possible. And they started making amendment after amendment. The average person wonders, are Americans crazy? Why do they allow everybody to carry guns? And they are busy killing themselves. But then you find out through the years, you can't take those guns away from them because of the foundation. Number one, they said, you are the first line of defense when your life is in danger. Before the police arrives, you could be dead. So at least have something with which to defend yourself. Number two, they wanted a scenario where nobody, no president would be able to take the army and move it against the citizens. So when you think of the population of the United States and the number of guns the citizens hold, even the army does not hold that number of guns. So they did not want tyranny, the tyranny of a monarchical system of government. Now that's their own evolution. In the Middle East, where we're having rapid development right now, people forget that they are not democracies. They are not democracies. We believe the mantra. The people that control the world control the narratives. So we believe democracy is the best form of government. Democracy is the best form of government. Now, how many countries in Africa have developed based on democracy? Right? These countries that are making progress are monarchies in the Middle East. So I like to draw the attention of our people to the fact that there is no system of government that has worked for us in Africa. We need to think about it. Whether it's a monarchy or a democracy or the military, we've been getting the same results.
Wow.
We need to change the narrative. We need to change the way we look at it. Culture is so powerful, it dominates everything else. Like, as a transformational coach, the power of habits. James Clear wrote it in Atomic Habits.
Yes.
You repeat something over and over and over, it goes into the subconscious. Like you teach NLP and all that, right? Once it goes in there, it overrides everything, except your goals align with that programming. That programming will override the goals. It's the same
Definitely.
thing for a group of people. That's why culture is so powerful. They said, Peter Drucker said, culture will eat your strategy for breakfast,
Yes.
right? We have a leadership culture. We need to pay attention to it. And we actually need, as a society, to review that structure, because the structure that we have makes the leader superior to the follower, makes the leader superior, right? We abused monarchy, right? The king owns everybody, owns everything. Military came in, it's the monarchy in disguise. It's still the same thing. The leader owns everything. Democracy came, the leader still owns everything, consumes practically everything. enslaves everybody else. My proposal, I'll propose this as a Christian, because Jesus Christ proposed something, suggested something in terms of leadership culture that I think is useful for us. He told the disciples, because he observed their leadership, their mindset was making them to compete within one another. He said, look, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, but among you it shall not be so. Anyone who wants to be leader among you, let him be the servant. Anyone who wants to be first, let him be last. He referred to himself. He said, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a sacrifice for many. Because of the human nature and power don't mix well. Human nature and power don't mix well. That's why Lord Aldous Huxley said, power corrupts. Okay? Power corrupts. So he was suggesting there that power should be used for service. Leadership should be used for service. So what the Greek did in developing democracy and the United States fine-tuned to a new level was to manage human nature and power. The president of the United States, the wealthiest country in the world, earns $400,000 per annum. They run $1 trillion economy, right? He earns only $400,000 per annum fixed by law, right? There's a limit to the gifts he can take. There are some things he will do in the White House and he has to pay with his money, right?
Yeah.
When he, just to send the message, you are not here to serve yourself. You are not here to make money. But the moment, if they do that job well, the moment they step out, then value comes back to them because they've served the most powerful nation in the world. The Obamas signed a book deal for $60 million as Barack Obama stepped out of office, right? So collectively as a society in Africa, I think this is a major issue for us. We should stop thinking that it has to do with individuals, because we've seen changes in the individuals through the decades. How come the scenario has not changed? So all of us need to change. Let me put it like that. And we need to change our mindsets.
This is so powerful. This is so powerful. Service, servant, leadership. And this is the culture. And it stems from our tradition, it stems from our culture, it stems from our hierarchical mindset that it's positional, and the person that has the most money, that has the most power, is the leader. And this ideology needs to change. I love that. I love that. So the culture concerning Africa, the approach concerning leadership, our own system of governance has to change drastically. And you spoke about using power and position to serve, right? So what's your thoughts about Captain Ibrahim Traore and of Burkina Faso and the president of Rwanda? It seems like those two countries have thought about it and they are proposing and presenting a completely different system, right, to what we're used to. What are your thoughts about those two leadership styles?
Thank you. Well, as you can see, Africans are excited, especially about Captain Ibrahim Traore. It's a breath of fresh air, like especially young people around Africa right now. It's a big deal. And of course, that's a bit scary to the older generation that experienced military rule before and then opted for democracy, right? And they're thinking, do you guys know what military rule is like? President Kagame also came in as a military ruler, right? So I would say, first, we have the symptoms, we have the real problems, right? And the real problem is that lack of leadership, lack of good leadership. Now, like I have said, I do not see a particular type of government as the solution. Is military rule the solution? No. The first producer of my radio broadcast, Success Power, eventually moved out of Nigeria, went to Canada, and he retired just a few years ago as the public relations officer for the Canadian Air Force.
Wow.
On one of my visits to Canada, we had time to talk, review, reflect. And, whenever we Nigerians get together, we talk about Nigeria anywhere in the world.
Yes, yes, yes.
He told me that they made an observation in North America. Brilliant officers come from the military in Nigeria to military schools in North America, and they usually top the class. They usually top the class. Then they go back to their countries and then they're shocked, especially if they go back to Nigeria and then they're shocked at what they do in Nigeria because it's totally at variance from what they learn, the values that they learn in the military schools in North America. Like he told me, he rode once with a general, a three-star general, and it was only one rider, motorbike in front and so on. And the man went quietly, they were obeying traffic rules and all that. And he said, when our people get back home, it's a totally different experience. So I would say, on one hand, I am happy. I'm happy to see the development in Rwanda. The progress has been so phenomenal that I think the citizens themselves are even concerned about President Kagame leaving office, right? They want this life to continue. Um, Burkina Faso now, I watched documentary on social media a few days ago where some of the citizens, they interviewed some of the citizens who sleep at a roundabout saying that they want to protect their president, right? It's amazing. I wrote something in my book, Shifts, about the interdependence of nations. Many Africans, maybe from what's happening with Captain Traore and the AES countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they're getting to appreciate the role that world powers, right, Western powers play in the development or underdevelopment of Africa. It's not only internal issues that slow us down. There are also external factors. And I addressed it in my book because uh, I addressed it's a methodology, a transformation methodology. I applied it to individuals, to organizations. I also applied it to nations just to provide some ideas to people that lead at the national level. I'm proposing interdependence because you've got to really be strategic to deal with a strong person that has the capacity to dominate you. You've got to negotiate a win-win. Let me put it like that. You've got to dominate, you've got to propose a win-win. If you don't, you go fully against someone that is more powerful than you, the likelihood is that they'll find a way to dominate you again, right? Uh, some South Africans were angry with Nelson Mandela in terms of the negotiations that he made to be released and for apartheid to be ended. But it was
Yes.
wisdom. He had to go for a win-win. He had to go for a win-win. That so when I hear some of the rhetoric coming from the Burkina Faso scenario, that's the little bit of concern that I have. That we've got to be careful that African countries do not now become where global powers fight proxy wars, right? Because it's like swinging from one end of Western power, swinging to the other one. And I say, before you realize it, you just find out they'll be supplying guns here, supplying guns there. On this side, they will be supplying guns to militias and so on. And then you just find out they are fighting proxy wars, and you are the one that will suffer for it at the end of the day. So uh, I'm happy to see young leaders coming up who have the interests of people at heart, who at least expend the resources to improve the lives of the citizens. That's what we need right now. That's what we need right now. Will it be sustainable on the long term? Will it work? We will need leaders that are very strategic and very wise to negotiate win-wins. The Middle East countries, right? The Gulf states, I think it's win-win. They're negotiating. Well, a global leader is visiting there at about now. They are making negotiations, signing contracts, and so on. Development is happening at their end, and the global powers are not disturbing their lives, right? And they're able to improve the quality of life for their citizens.
Wow, wisdom. Wisdom is profitable to direct. It's very, very important. Win-win is the approach. Wow. Wow. In today's volatile, unpredictable, complex, and ambiguous world where things are happening and shifting rapidly, what mindsets do you believe that every leader must unlearn? And what mindsets do you believe that leaders need to imbibe to stay relevant and to survive and to thrive today?
Thank you. That's a big dimension to the leadership discussion today. The level of disruption going on is unprecedented. The rate of change is rapid, it's massive. And the leadership discussion always starts from the personal level, right? It's self-leadership first. So at an individual level, leaders need to realize the world has changed. It is changing, but it has also changed. COVID shifted things in a very powerful way. Technology is then also compounding the rate of change. And once the way people communicate changes, the world literally changes. Once the way we communicate changes, because things happen at a faster speed, and it literally kills industries, kills some jobs, but then it also creates new ones. So I'd like to draw the attention of the average leader to the role, especially that technology is playing. I would like to alert from a strategic level that the disruptions are going to get worse.
Mhm.
Again, I lean on the Bible to say Jesus Christ tried to prepare us for the future. There's coming a time there will be wars, rumors of wars, there will be earthquakes, there will be famines, there will be this, that's disruption. Even though the average Christian doesn't like to hear it, right? Especially those of us that believe in faith. We like to be positive. Like to hear negative. I say, well, you can't have more faith than Jesus Christ. So just forget it. You've got to face reality too. The disruptions are coming. Some days ago, there was an earthquake in Tennessee. I'm in Atlanta right now. And it was in the morning. I was still on the bed and my bed was shaking. My bed was shaking and the bedside table was creaking. And it went on like that for about a minute. I was wondering what is going on? What is going on? Because earthquakes don't happen in this part of the United States. So I was saying, okay, I'll wait some minutes and check online to see. And truly, it was an earthquake in Tennessee. Thank God it was mild. It was 4.1 on the Richter scale. Things are going to happen that were not happening before. Just get ready, right? Good. So when you find yourself in a scenario like that, what do you do? I say first, it creates the big need for strategic leadership. There is operational leadership, there is strategic leadership. Operational leadership works well, managing and deploying human resources and other resources in normal conditions, in stable conditions. But that one that is not stable, that is unpredictable, where there is uncertainty, that one requires strategic leadership. And a research was carried out. They said only 13% of leaders are strategic. The rest are operational.
Wow.
Strategic leaders create success for their teams and for their groups, not only in stable conditions, but also in unstable or rapidly changing conditions. They create success for their groups, not only in the present, but also in the future. So people are going to need direction, like when COVID happened, right? We were dealing with something that almost everyone alive on this planet had never seen before.
Yeah.
So it was like, what are we going to do? What do we do? Even leaders themselves didn't know what to do. They were not used to it. People have to feel their ways. That's where a leader is needed. That's where the power of vision is needed. That capacity to capture the future. It comes both from rational knowledge and from intuition, right? Very important quality all of us need to have is flexibility. You see that the COVID scenario demanded that the ability to pivot, the ability to accept things have changed and to quickly change your approach, the willingness to experiment, to try new things, right? And I'll tell you that is more difficult for successful people than for people who are still aspiring, who are upwardly mobile and still aspiring for success. When you've been successful, abandoning the methods, the practices that got you the success can be so difficult, right? So difficult. Yet, you literally need to reinvent yourself when your environment has changed like that. It's like they talk about the dinosaurs. If not that we actually see their bones today, we would have contested that the dinosaurs ever existed. But
Very true.
we can see their bones. So the reality is that the environment changed, but they could not adapt. They could not change. And today it's their bones that we have, it's their fossils that we have. And this thing is true for organizations. An organization cannot create shifts in its culture as the environment is changing. It will fossilize. It's the bones of the organization that will be picking up a few years down the line. You spoke about before we started, we were talking about the fact that we have multiple generations today. We're dealing with multiple generations. So when an organization has been there for 25 years, 30 years, usually the reality is that the founder understood the needs of their own generation and responded to those needs. 30 years down the line, there's a whole new generation or even two. Their needs are different. If you don't reinvent the vision of the organization, there will be misalignment between you and the crowd. So I'm also recommending their adaptability, the ability to pivot, the ability to experiment, learn new things, find out what works now, leverage new technology. Now, this is important for us as leaders. What do you want to do? How are you going to compete against somebody that is developing their books with AI? Right? In 5 minutes, they have the major content that they want to put in the book. Of course, when I was writing my latest book, in the agreement, the publishers put there that I had to disclose anything that I got through AI, through artificial, because it's a huge cheat code, right? So, but gratefully, what I have learned is not to plagiarize. Find out what's been there before, but then express it in your own voice. Now, I'm going to land heavily on that point. Finding your unique ability. Because when we talk about technology, then there's the concern. Hey, the robots are coming. Elon Musk says he envisages somewhere along the line we'll have maybe 20 billion robots because they will make each person's life easier, right? The things that are routinous, you just teach your robot to do it so you can face more serious things. Okay, so people are afraid that the robots will take their jobs. And we're trying to get people to realize there is a part of you the robot cannot replace. You need to move towards that part. And it is the part of you where you have your genius, where you have your talent, the thing that makes you to see the world differently, to think differently. We call it your unique ability. A robot cannot replace it because the robots, you program them to do things that are routinous. The only thing is, once you introduce a human being, the situation becomes dynamic. Each of us is so unique and unpredictable. You put two of us together, it compounds the problem. You put 10 of us together, it multiplies the variables. Now that's where we are needed to create solutions. So we're asking this person to move. I want to speak especially to the young person that is listening to this podcast. The current educational curriculum was designed for the Industrial Revolution. With the invention of machines, we began to mass produce things, mass produce cars, mass produce electronics. Then the educational system was designed to mass produce the people that will work in those factories. That work is virtually disappearing. Those factories, the robots are taking over those jobs. So some years down the line, if our experts are predicting maybe some 10 years from now, employment will be different. Jobs are going to be different the way they are. The average employer will not be employing a lot of people on full time. They will be working with project teams. So they have this to do. They form a team to do it, to execute the project. Project is finished, they disband them. Or they don't need someone full time. They only need your services 2 hours in the week. Or 4 hours, fine. They will prefer you do your job freelance. So you would have to decide what you want to do and then have like 10 clients or 20 clients and so on. I want to ask the average young person. In fact, there's this illustration I give in Nigeria that the young person that goes to serve as an apprentice to the vulcanizer that repairs tires on the roadside. When he gets his quote unquote freedom, like they say, when he graduates from his training, he sets up his own store, his own shop, and begins to do the same thing as an entrepreneur. The one that went to university comes out and moves around looking for who to work for. Hey, it's amazing, right? How, like I said, it was the Industrial Revolution. It was for the factories. It was designed to mass produce people for the factories. And I want to say to the young person, that world is gradually expiring. You need to take entrepreneurship seriously as a young person. Take entrepreneurship seriously. Number two, go and run tests online, strength test, personality test, gift test. Find out what makes you unique. Find out where you're a genius. I know that with social media today, young people are hung up on influencers. You are also an influencer. Those influencers, especially in the entertainment industry, what is it that they build on? Their talents, right? You also have talent. Everybody has talent. God did not make a failure. Find yours and build your work going into the future based on that, because that's more likely to sustain you in terms of work going into the future. The last thing I will add, going into the it's a very broad subject, right? But the last thing I'm going to add is you've got to have values. These disruptions, they blow like strong winds, right? COVID exposed the values of leaders, the ones that valued money more than human life, valued political power more than human life. Everything was showing during COVID. That's why you had the great resignation after COVID in the Western world. In Nigeria, you had the great emigration, right? Shifting out of Nigeria. Because all of a sudden, everybody realized, oh my God, these guys, they don't have me in mind. I'm not their priority. I need to think for my life. I need to make decisions for myself. So as these disruptions come, they're going to expose the values of leaders. So I want to say to leaders, look, you've got to be clear about your values, because there's an ethical side to leadership. And I want to push what I call the cornerstone of values, love. You've got to really care about people. You've got to have human feeling and have conscience. All this money, after you've gotten it, what will you do? But the amazing thing is, once we get to our middle age and you get all the money, that's when you can't eat everything you want to eat. Doctor will tell you your cholesterol is going up. Don't eat this. Your BP is going up. Don't eat that. How many houses do you want to live in? Think legacy, right? The greatest opportunity in this. How many people will have the opportunity to be a president in this world or to be a governor? It's a rare opportunity that should not be wasted. So as these disruptions are coming, people are going to be in desperate need of leadership, in desperate need of direction. Sadly, I think some leaders are going to squander the opportunity, and exercise control over people, dominate people. But I just want to prepare us. Look, let's be on the right side of history. Let's develop that capacity for love, for emotional intelligence, for caring deeply about people, and for adding value to people's lives on a massive scale.
Wow, this is so deep. The future leader, the leader of the future that is going to survive, that is going to thrive and succeed, is a strategic leader, not an operational leader. Is a leader that has emotional intelligence, is a love leader, is a servant leader, is an empathic leader, is a leader that is authentic, is a leader that has identified his strengths, his weaknesses, his gifts, his purpose, and have aligned all of that in line with the vision that God has given him. He's a values-driven leader. He's a leader that is innovative. He's a leader that is dynamic. He's a leader that is flexible. He's a leader that has an entrepreneurship mindset and a growth mindset. Without all of this coming together, it's going to be impossible for any leader to survive, to thrive, or to succeed in the next 5 to 10 years. Wow. Add critical thinking to it.
Right.
Critical thinking and problem solving skills. Without all of this, it will be impossible for you to thrive and to be relevant as a leader of the future. Wow, 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 wow. So Revo, this is deep. You know, we live in a world where research has now told us that 70 to 80% of the workforce will be Gen Z and Gen Y based. And the people that have set up organizations now and are leading organizations, at least most of the legacy organizations, are Generation X and Generation Baby Boomers. And there's a disconnect between the baby boomers, Generation X and Generation Y and Generation Z. Generation Z and Generation Y, they're looking for trust. They are looking for psychological and emotional safe spaces. They're looking for, atmospheres and environments where they can find meaning, where they can thrive. But the African leader of today, right, is a tough guy, is a hard guy, is a toxic leader. He approaches leadership from a toxic perspective. Now, it will be impossible for you to lead Generation Y and Generation Z, and they would amount to 70 to 80% of your workforce. Now, I'd like you to speak to those hard knock, these toxic leaders, especially in our banks, especially in our consulting firms, especially in leadership. Speak to them, Reverend Sam. How can they practically change from toxic leadership, from hard leadership, from that approach to an approach that suits Generation Z and Generation Y, who will make up 70 to 80% of their workforce?
Wow, that is a very, very important question there. Whew. Okay, so we've got to find motivation, right? We've got to find motivation for the leaders. Like I said, when you've been successful, it's just difficult for you to reinvent yourself. It's the risk is so huge for you, right? That structure that we described, that culture, that leadership culture that dominates, right? It's in all our institutions, all, including religious institutions, including churches,
Wow.
right? Yes,
Wow.
it's in our families. It's a structure and it's a culture, right? So across board, one, I want to appeal to those of us in leadership. The world has changed. Technology is changing it. Technology has changed it and is changing it. The people who are leading, especially the younger generation, they have other references, other frameworks now from around the world because of the technology. They can see how it's working elsewhere. So don't be surprised that they're holding you accountable to standards that are so different, so high now. You can't escape it. It is what it is, right? They can see how it's been done elsewhere in the world. They see now in 5 days what it took us 5 months or maybe even 5 years to see before, right? And the implication is this. Someone said, if you call yourself a leader, but nobody is following you, you are not leading, you're only taking a straw. Okay? You're just going to find out that you're going to lose that whole generation. Yes, you're going to hold the position, but you're going to lose the generation. There is a king in the Bible that had that kind of an experience. Solomon's son. King Solomon, reputed to be the wisest person in the Old Testament, his own son, King Rehoboam, had that kind of a scenario where citizens came. They said, yes, your dad achieved so much, but it was at a cost to us. Please shift this thing. And the young man went, got advice from older people, got advice from younger people. What did the old people ask him to do? To be a servant leader. They said, speak kindly to them. Tell them that you will serve them. They will follow you. He said, but if you don't, it may not be good. Then he asked people like himself, young people like himself who are not experienced. They said, no, 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 no. People will take you for granted. If you come with this servant leadership thing and you play weak, they'll take you for granted and all that. So he too went out, spoke harshly to the people, spoke with a strong tone and all of that. And out of 12 tribes, 11 decided to leave him. They abandoned him. He thought it was a joke. He lost 11 out of 12 tribes. I hope with that I can paint a picture of what's going to happen to African leaders. You're going to lose control of the citizens. What is working now will not work forever. Trying to stifle the voice of the younger generation, trying to hinder them by limiting their access to technology is a waste of time. Where is the internet? You can't see it. It's like trying to stop the wind. You can't see it. And these young people, they have a good hang of technology more than we do. Okay, so to continue to lead and to even now have a legacy, their leader, we've got to shift our approach to leadership. Now, in fact, you need to bail the cat. It's a risk, right? But it's a risk that is worth taking. You cannot fail unleashing human potential, because that actually is the essence of leadership, right? Unleashing human potential. Part of the reason why I wrote my book Shifts was to equip leaders with the ability to shift culture. Because my point is, if you cannot shift culture, you cannot create sustainable change. Just like we said, habits will, overwhelm your new goals. If the new goals don't align with the habits, it's the same thing with culture. So you have to go for the culture as a leader. And I say you can't shift culture without shifting people's mindsets, their beliefs, their values, and ultimately their behavior, right? Leaders need to develop that kind of sophistication. Maybe if I want very good advice for us leaders at the top level now and in the older generation in Africa would be, please listen to the young people. Just listen. Just listen. You know, our culture does not even allow us to listen to young people
Yeah.
in the first place. It's a culture of domination. What we call honor is literally worship, worshiping the person with power, worshiping the person with money, and all that. And you can't speak up, because you don't correct an elder, right? You, if you don't listen, you're going to have a problem. I was speaking to the leadership of a big denomination several years back, and they have uh, different generations in their denomination, and they were experiencing clashes
Wow.
between generations. They said, "What do we do to manage this? The young people are becoming unruly and disrespectful and all that." I said, if you were God and you wanted to discuss your plans for the next 50 years, who would you rather discuss with? The 70-year-old or the 17-year-old? They were laughing.
Wow.
I said, you get my point, right? You will discuss with the person who's going to be around,
Wow.
execute the plans. So I said, the likelihood is that the best dreams that will create your future will be found in the hearts of those young people. You don't listen to them, you are out, and you will completely lose relevance because you will eventually leave this world for them. I say to organizational leaders in Nigeria and in Africa, you send young people to Harvard to attend courses, London School of Economics, and so on, but you still don't listen to them. You are disconnected from their generation. They're the ones that understand their generation. They understand the needs of their generation. And they're the ones likely to have the creative ideas, right? You need to respect these people. Now, expecting them to be exactly like you, to appear like you, to have the same hairstyles like you, perish the thought. It will not happen. Culture behaves like the pendulum. It swings from one end to the other end, right? So you need to leave those idiosyncrasies and those things and just focus on the main essence. At the same time, I talk to the young people. I know with the fast rate of change in technology and all of that, you believe everything is new. These old people are completely out of touch. They don't know nothing. I said, please calm down. It is not everything that is changing. Just step outside your room. That sun that you see up there is the same one they saw 6,000 years ago.
Wow.
Things are not changing. The seasons are not changing. The laws of reproduction and growth, they are not changing. Gravity is not changing. And you need to build the foundational part of your life on the things that are not changing, or else you'll be confused. And these older people, they've seen more of those things that don't change than you. Listen to them so you can have some stability in your life. I encourage the generations to honor one another and to patiently listen to one another. Friend does not mean better or superior. So there's no point trying to play we're better than you, we're better than you. No, we need one another. I encourage collaboration going forward into the future between the generations than competition.
Wow, wow. Collaboration is the future. And it's quite interesting because Gen Z, the Sorosuke generation, the woke generation, when they begin to think that there's toxic leadership, when they begin to think that the environment is too harsh, they just leave. They never come back to work. They don't
Hmm.
even resign formally. They don't give 30 months leave notice. They just switch off their phone and they don't come to work, and they're managing very, very sensitive projects.
Hmm.
So, about 70 to 80% of our workforce is that generation, but we do not connect with them. We do not adapt to what their needs are. We do not listen to them. We do not cooperate and collaborate with them. Which brings me to one very, very powerful point that you made, that the purpose of your book is to get us to shift individually as leaders in organizations, as leaders of nations. Wow. So one thing that I want to do for all my listeners that are listening to this program right now, I'm going to purchase a few copies of this new book and I'm going to give it to you for free. So what you want to do is listen to this episode and send me a DM on my Instagram at Lanre Olusola if you want a copy of Dr. Sam Adeyemi's new book, Shift. And I will make available for you for free because I will pay for the book. So I'm going to buy a couple of your books, Dr. Sam, as
Wow,
a
thank you.
gift, for our viewers on this topic. So I want to
Amazing.
ask you one last question. One last question. Now, you often teach purpose, you often teach vision. But in this very rapidly changing and dynamic world, you have said it that we need dynamism, we need flexibility, adaptability. In this very dynamic and flexible world, how does a leader hold on to his vision?
Hmm. Thank you. That's a very good question. What we have to accept is that vision is about the future, right? Some people describe it as the picture of a preferable the mental picture of a preferable state. I describe vision as the ability to see people, places, and things, not just the way they are, but the way they could be. Ability to recognize potential. That's what our imagination helps us to do. Vision is such a powerful principle. Bill Hybels says vision is the heart of leadership. That when you take vision out of a leader, there's nothing left. Where there is no vision, there's no leader. That sensing of the future, that conviction about the future, about where we should go, that's what makes us attractive. That's what makes us inspirational. So we will always need to think about the future, to have some clear picture about the future. What we need, like we've said earlier on, is flexibility, adaptability. The fact that we actually need to review the vision now more often now than we did before. We have to review. The one thing that will not change is people need to become better. That's the essence of leadership. If there's no improvement in my life, of what use is the leadership? In my leadership classes, I ask someone to stand behind me, and I say to them, if we stood here for 12 hours, and then you came and asked me, what are you doing to her? And I said, I am leading her. Would that be a correct statement? The answer is always no. I asked them, but why? They say, because you're not moving. You were not moving for 12 hours, so you can't say that you are leading her. I say, thank you. Where there is no movement, there's no leadership. As long as the vision is about improving people's lives, taking people from point A to point B, helping people to become whom they would never have become, but for your influence, we will always be on the right side. However, we will need to be reviewing the vision and its application, its interpretation, how it aligns with what's going on now. We will need to do that more often. I strongly encourage scenario planning for organizations. You need to sit down, imagine the best case scenarios, technology, the economy, the political sector, government policies, and so on. Imagine the best case scenario, then imagine the worst case scenarios. the things that will come and just knock out your business completely, then prepare for all of them, right? Prepare for all of them. That way, your vision is likely to survive on the long.
Wow. Wow. I love that. The vision is the picture of your desired future. It is where you're going. It is who you want to be. It is what you want to achieve. It has to be relevant.
Exactly.
Vis-a-vis today and tomorrow. And so we review it from time to time to check its relevancy to the people that you're supposed to deliver it for. However, between here and there is the how. Be dynamic and flexible in working with the people along your journey to your where and to achieve your what. And like Reverend Sam says, it's important that progress is made. It's important that growth is inculcated into that journey. So be dynamic, be flexible, be agile, be progressive, develop a growth mindset, develop the right strategy and the dynamic strategy in how you achieve your vision. Even though you have to keep your eyes on your vision, it's important, like the Bible says, write it down, make it simple, and review it from time to time to check how relevant it is in the time frame that you're in. And the truth of the matter is, nobody sees tomorrow as it is supposed to be. So it is only a sneak preview. You don't know it all. You don't see it all. Your interpretation, your imagination, your ignorance can get in your way. But the closer you are to it, it may need tweaking. It may need changing. Wow. What an incredible, podcast that we've had today. If this podcast has been of any value to you, make sure that you don't just listen to it. Make sure you share it with everybody you know on podcast, on Apple, on every platform that you read or you watch the podcast on. Very last question for you, Dr. Sam. You are very, very busy. Very, very busy. How do you relax?
Thank you. So my mind is very, very active. So the first thing is I distract my mind. Reading, I make sure I have at least one full day in the week when I tune off, right? I tune off work. Okay. Spend time with my family, spend time with my wife, and all that. We go out on a date, and then I watch comedy skits a lot. I own up to that. Yes, I know a lot of our comedians, especially in Nigeria, and I laugh all by myself a lot. In terms of, okay, and then I take vacations. I take vacations. I take them seriously. We have family vacations. I just returned from a vacation with my wife because it was our town anniversary. So
Congratulations. Wow.
thank you. Every anniversary like that, every year, we find somewhere in the world to go that we've not gone before, right? This time we were in Singapore, right? Knock that off the bucket list. We're already planning for the one for next year. So I think vacations, it's amazing. I get some of my best ideas that create big jumps while on vacation. When my mind is off the job, it's amazing how the ideas come in easily like that. In terms of sports, I take walks a lot. Golf, I was playing a lot of golf before COVID, and then I slowed down, and now I'm picking it up again.
Nice, nice. Wow, phenomenal. You've got to ensure that you care for yourself no matter what you're doing in terms of achievement. Always take personal breaks, take family breaks, switch off and care for yourself. Wow. Well, like I said, I'm going to be giving out shift for free. So if you're interested, send me a DM on my Instagram that you watch this podcast and you want Reverend Sam's shift latest book. On that note, we'll call it a wrap. Thank you very much, Reverend, for your wealth of wisdom, for sharing, from a place of passion, a place of wisdom, a place of deep insight. God bless and keep you in the name of Christ Jesus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lanre, for having me on this podcast. Great job. Keep up with the good work.
Thank you, sir. I am successful. I look for and find opportunities where others see nothing. I am a lifetime learner. I am solution focused. I see only solutions. I am a solution.